Whether you're 30, 50, or even 70 years old, there's one truth that holds its value across time and circumstance. Either you make money work for you, or you spend your life working for money. For most of my life, I followed the latter path. I believed that as long as I held a steady job with health insurance and a retirement plan, I'd be safe. I followed the familiar formula: work 40 hours a week for 40 years and retire with 40% of an income that was never really enough in the first place. That script was supposed to deliver peace and security, but all it gave was a quiet sense of unrest. Sound familiar? We live our entire lives hoping for a peaceful retirement, yet so few of us pause to ask, am I even heading in the right direction? Consider this sobering reality. In the United States, 7 out of 10 people who reach retirement age rely on Social Security as their primary income source. That's not freedom, that's survival. And the most painful part? That outcome wasn't written in stone. It could have been different. Their reality could have changed, if only they had known what I'm about to share with you. Financial freedom is not a privilege reserved for the young, the gifted, or the so-called lucky ones. It isn't a reward you stumble upon. It is a skill, a discipline, a strategy, and most of all, a decision. I don't share these insights from a textbook or from theory. I speak from experience. I've known what it feels like to have nothing, to live in fear, to feel like you're drifting without purpose. But I also know the power of simple, consistent strategies. These aren't shortcuts. They are life tools. And they helped me not only survive a financial crisis, but reclaim ownership of my life. What matters is not how old you are, where you live, or how much you currently have in the bank. The only thing that truly matters is the decision you're about to make. Are you controlling your money, or is your money controlling you? That one question shattered the illusion I was living under. I used to have no idea where my money went each month. I didn't know how much I was saving, how much I was investing, or if I even was. My income came and went like a passing breeze, and the result was always the same: lack. Not because I didn't work hard, but because I didn't have a strategy. Everything changed the day I met the first mentor of my life, Earl Shea. I remember sitting across from him, ashamed of my financial mess, expecting judgment. He simply asked, "Have you ever kept 10 cents from every dollar you earn?" I shook my head. Never. He didn't scold me. He smiled. Then that's where we'll start. That single sentence marked the beginning of a transformation I never saw coming. I was 25, drowning in debt, lacking direction and clarity. But from that moment, I stopped searching for quick riches and started learning the philosophy of money. I began to think like a wealthy person, even when I had nothing. I discovered that money was never the goal. It was the vehicle to build a meaningful life. And true wealth doesn't begin with numbers. It begins with mindset. It's in the way you think, the way you live, and the way you handle small, seemingly trivial decisions every single day. I used to believe that earning more would fix everything. But I came to realize you could hand someone $1 million and, without discipline, they could lose it all within a year. On the flip side, I've met people with modest incomes who live with a sense of peace and freedom that millionaires would envy. Why? Because they live beneath their means. They invest in knowledge. They avoid the trap of instant gratification. They build slowly and steadily, and they never confuse flashy appearances with genuine wealth. You can begin this journey right now. It doesn't matter if you're starting late. I once spoke to a man who said, "I'm 60, it's too late to start now." I asked him, "When is the best time to plant a tree?" He replied, 20 years ago. I nodded. Exactly. And the second best time is today. Today isn't a magical day, but it can become the most important day of your life if you choose to make it your beginning, your turning point. When you take ownership of your financial reality and say, "I take responsibility," something profound happens. You don't just change the numbers in your bank account. You change the energy inside yourself. You begin to shift from fear to confidence, from scarcity to abundance, from helplessness to clarity. You're no longer a victim. You become the leader of your life. The 7 strategies I'll share with you are not abstract concepts from some personal finance manual. They are lived truths. I've tested them, I've seen others test them. They begin with a question. Are you the master of your finances or just a visitor in your own bank account? Always remember this. Money is a wonderful servant, but a terrible master. Either you control it or it will control you, day after day, paycheck after paycheck. And you don't deserve to live like that. So here's my invitation. Grab a notebook, because this isn't just about ideas. It's about creating a concrete plan for your life. We're not chasing theory, we're building a system. And that journey starts with a decision. Now, this might sound simple, but it's where most people stumble. We live in an age where it's easier than ever to appear rich. You can finance a luxury car, buy the newest phone on credit, take a vacation you can't afford, and then come home to a pile of debt. That's not wealth, that's stress dressed in designer clothes. I know, I've lived that life. I used to spend money to keep up appearances, to feel like I was part of something, to numb the discomfort of being left behind. But inside I was empty. I had no plan, no system, no strategy. I was just reacting to life. And living in reaction is a form of passivity. One day I asked myself a terrifying question. If I stopped working today, how long could I survive? The silence that followed was deafening. I had no emergency fund, no passive income, no safety net. That was when it hit me. I wasn't living. I was just spinning on a wheel that never stopped. That was the moment I chose change, not by earning more right away, but by treating every dollar I had with respect. I began to practice delayed gratification. I started saying no to quick rewards so I could say yes to long-term purpose. I invested in myself before I spent on entertainment. I stopped chasing the feeling of wealth and started building the reality of it. Because I came to understand, real abundance isn't about the size of your paycheck. It's about the freedom to choose, to move forward, to say, I'm not stuck. Let me be clear. I'm not asking you to live in scarcity. I'm not suggesting you give up joy or deprive yourself of what you love. I'm saying this. You must become the one who decides, not the one who's driven by impulse. Because if you can't control your first $10, you'll never be able to control the next $10,000. That's the truth. And I've seen it play out time and time again. There was a man I met, 60 years old, who said to me, "Isn't it too late?" And again I asked, "When's the best time to plant a tree?" He laughed. 20 years ago. Exactly, I said. And the second best time is today. Because every day that passes isn't just a missed opportunity to fix the past. It's a powerful chance to rewrite the future. Start with one shift. Stop saying, "If only I earned more." That mindset turns you into a passive observer. Replace it with what I have right now, what smarter choices can I make? That one question will open new doors, practical paths, better decisions, and a kind of strength that money alone can never buy. Truly wealthy people don't need more just to feel okay. They know exactly what to do with what they already have. I won't tell you this is easy, but I will tell you this. If you begin to live with intention, spending less, saving consistently, investing wisely, and learning as you go, you'll escape the cycle of financial anxiety. And even before your bank account grows, your confidence will, because that's where wealth truly begins. Not in a number, but in your spirit. I will never forget the moment my mentor looked me in the eyes and said, "If you can't live on 90% of your income, then even if you earn 10 times more, you'll still be poor." At the time, I thought he was exaggerating. It sounded almost sarcastic, even dismissive. But as those words echoed in my mind over the days and weeks that followed, they became the wake-up call I needed. Like so many others, I had gotten used to spending everything I earned, sometimes even more. I was stuck in the pattern of borrowing first, paying later, and convincing myself that this was just how modern life worked. Every paycheck came and disappeared like a magician's trick, and eventually I had to admit the truth. I wasn't poor because I didn't earn money. I was poor because I didn't keep any of it. That realization broke something in me, but it also sparked a new beginning. From that moment forward, I adopted a principle that would alter the entire trajectory of my life. Live on 70% of your income. Not 90%, not 80%. 70. What does this look like in practical terms? If I earned 100 units, be it dollars, rupees, euros, or any currency, I would limit my lifestyle, my rent, my food, my transportation, and my indulgences to 70 units. The remaining 30? That wasn't up for negotiation. I divided it into 3 equal parts, each with a sacred purpose. The first 10% went into investing in myself. Books, courses, seminars, workshops, anything that increased my understanding of the world and myself. I came to realize something that most people overlook. The greatest return doesn't come from stocks or real estate or business ventures. It comes from becoming a more valuable human being. A book can permanently shift your thinking. A course can open doors you didn't know existed. A single new insight can save you from years of costly mistakes. This isn't just self-help rhetoric. It's practical economics. You are your first and greatest asset. The second 10% was dedicated to building income-generating tools. This could mean different things at different stages of life: a savings account, an emergency fund, a small index fund investment, or a compound interest insurance plan. The size of the initial amount didn't matter as much as the habit I was forming, because when you build the discipline of channeling money toward a long-term goal every single month, no matter how small, you are sending a loud, clear message to yourself and to the universe. I am not living for today alone. I am building the foundation for tomorrow. I am not drifting, I am constructing. And the final 10%? I gave it away. Not because I had extra, not because I wanted to feel noble. I gave because I believe deeply in the law of circulation. Money, like energy, stagnates when it is hoarded. It becomes heavy, anxious, even toxic. But when you give, even in small amounts, you participate in flow. You're saying, I don't live in fear. I live in abundance. I trust that what I give, I will receive, and even more. And strangely, mystically, that's exactly what happened. The more sincerely I gave, not out of show, not out of guilt, but out of alignment, the more I felt I received. Not always in cash, but in opportunities, in joy, in synchronicities that seemed too perfect to be coincidences. Now I can already hear the resistance rising. But how can I live on just 70%? My income is already stretched. Believe me, I used to say the same thing. But the truth is, the problem is rarely our income. It's the standard of living we impose on ourselves the moment that income increases. Most people, when they get a raise, double their spending. They buy better gadgets, rent larger homes, eat out more often, and tell themselves they're simply upgrading. But in reality, they're deepening the same cycle. It's not your income that elevates you. It's the strategy behind it. Living on 70% isn't deprivation. It's design. It's building with intention. You don't give up your favorite coffee. You just don't buy it 5 times a week. You don't eliminate joy. You delay it until it aligns with abundance. You don't become stingy. You become strategic. I used to confuse saving with scarcity. I believed that keeping money meant I was living small. But I was wrong. Saving is not shrinking. It's expanding. Every dollar you keep is a promise to your future. Every expense you postpone mindfully is a seed you're planting in more fertile ground. And the miracle is this: once you start keeping something for yourself, you feel a new kind of confidence, a quiet power. You stop depending on every paycheck like it's oxygen. You stop chasing sales to feel good. You stop buying things to numb discomfort. You begin to live like someone who is in control, not just of their money, but of their mind. I want you to try something today. Take your last monthly income, multiply it by 70%, and see what that number looks like. Then divide the remaining 30% into 3 slices: 10% for self-development, 10% for long-term investing, and 10% for giving. Start small. You don't need to be perfect, but do something. Transfer a tiny amount into a separate account. Buy a used book instead of going to the movies. Donate to someone who needs help, even if it's just $5. Every action is a brick, and each brick builds a foundation, not just for your finances, but for your identity. And let me be absolutely clear, truly wealthy people are not the ones who have the most. They are the ones who manage the best with what they have. They make deliberate decisions. They live with clarity. They don't spend to show off. They spend to grow. They don't need constant novelty to feel alive. They cultivate depth. And that more than anything else is what financial freedom is about. Not how much you earn, but how much intention you live with. There's one truth I learned rather late in life, and I hope you take it to heart sooner than I did. Saving is not about what's left over after expenses. If that's your model, there will be nothing left. Saving must happen before you spend a single dollar. If you wait until the end of the month, until your desires are satisfied, until your lifestyle is funded, then I'm sorry, but saving will always be a fantasy. Because human beings are not rational creatures, we live by emotion, not logic. As soon as money lands in our account, the cravings begin, the justifications flow. And if we haven't built a system, an automatic habit, a non-negotiable process, the money will evaporate. Every single time. I remember vividly the moment that finally drove this home. I missed a small payment, nothing catastrophic, but it made me feel like I had lost control. I was no longer driving my financial vehicle. I was being dragged behind it. That was the day I decided to treat saving like a mandatory bill. From that point on, I set up an automatic transfer. Every time I got paid, 10% moved out of my main account, instantly, invisibly, without negotiation. I couldn't touch it. I couldn't wait until next month. And while it might seem restrictive at first, what I discovered was the opposite. It gave me freedom. It gave me peace. This is what I call invisible discipline, the kind of habit that doesn't require daily struggle or willpower. You set it up once, and then it just runs. Like brushing your teeth or locking your door at night, it becomes a part of who you are. The results don't appear instantly, but they are inevitable. And perhaps the most unexpected benefit wasn't even the money itself. It was the belief I began to restore in myself. Each time I honored that 10%, I was keeping a promise to myself. And every time I kept that promise, I started to believe I could keep bigger ones. Don't get trapped by the illusion of, I'll save when I earn more. If you can't save $10, you won't save $10,000. Because saving isn't a money issue. It's a mindset issue. It's about who you are, not what you have. Even if you can only start with 3% or 5%, do it. But make it sacred. Make it non-negotiable. Let it be a quiet declaration. I am building something. I am becoming someone. I am worthy of security, stability, and choice. Maybe you're working hard right now. Maybe you're paying every bill on time. Maybe you're even earning well. But if you don't have anything left for yourself, if you don't have a separate account to protect you when life throws a curveball, you are not free. You are floating. And anything, a job loss, a medical emergency, a broken car, could knock you off course. My advice, don't wait until disaster hits to get serious. Don't wait until panic forces you to take control. Start now, while you're still okay, while it's still manageable. Create a system while your life is calm, so it holds you up when the storms arrive. Open a new savings account. Give it a name that means something. Freedom, stability, mine. Automate a transfer every time you get paid. Even if it's small, make it consistent. And each month, as you see it grow, something inside you will grow too. A sense of pride, a sense of agency, a sense that you are no longer surviving, you are designing. Saving is not a financial act. It's a spiritual one. It's an expression of belief in your future. And once that belief begins to take root, it changes everything. It influences your spending, your lifestyle, your emotional state. You no longer buy impulsively just to feel good. You no longer chase the fleeting high of a shopping spree. You begin to align your actions with your values. You become, slowly but surely, the kind of person who is ready to build not just a bank balance, but a life of purpose and dignity. There's something deeply unsettling that I came to realize far too late in life. We spend over a decade in school learning complex equations, memorizing dates from history, studying the periodic table, and analyzing literature. Yet almost no one teaches us how to manage money, the one thing we interact with every single day of our adult lives. We graduate knowing how to solve for X in an algebraic equation, but remain clueless about budgeting, saving, investing, or understanding credit. We know the names of ancient kings, but not the impact of compound interest or the dangers of carrying a credit card balance. It's not just an educational gap, it's a generational disservice, and the consequences are everywhere. People struggling silently, families drowning in debt, individuals chasing financial freedom without even understanding the map. I used to be one of them, thinking I understood money simply because I worked hard and paid my bills. But that false confidence collapsed the moment I faced a crisis and realized I didn't have a single answer for why. Despite my income rising, I still felt like I was drowning. The truth hit hard. I didn't have money problems. I had knowledge problems. I was financially ignorant, but too proud to admit it. And that's the most dangerous combination of all. Because when you don't know, and don't know that you don't know, you can't even begin to improve. You continue the same broken patterns, hoping for different outcomes. You earn more and still feel broke. You pay your dues, but build no future. That's when I created a simple rule for myself, one that became a guiding light in my transformation. Every single week, learn one new thing about money, just one. Not an entire finance book, not a 10-hour course, just one lesson, one concept, one insight. Some weeks I learned about taxes. Other weeks I explored emergency funds, credit scores, or how the wealthy view risk. And slowly, brick by brick, I built a mental framework, a structure of understanding that allowed me to see the game I was playing and finally learn how to play it better. What I discovered along the way was this. Money isn't as mysterious as it seems. It only feels complicated when we treat it like someone else's domain, something only for the rich or the experts or the professionals in suits. But once you step into the world of financial learning with curiosity, humility, and consistency, you begin to see that most financial strategies are rooted in practical, even obvious logic. The fear starts to dissolve. You no longer avoid looking at your bank statements. You no longer feel like a fraud at the mention of investments or assets. You stop reacting and start inquiring. You begin asking better questions. How can I make my income work for me? What does it look like to build a system that generates wealth without exhausting me? How can I avoid spending my whole life working just to pay off debt? For the longest time, I told myself, I'm just not a money person. I saw finances as dry, boring, and best left to someone else. But that belief, I now know, was just a shield, a way to avoid confronting my own confusion. And if I'm honest, it was also an excuse to remain helpless. Because as long as I claimed not to be good at money, I could justify not taking responsibility. But here's what no one tells you. Financial ignorance is not harmless. It's a quiet form of helplessness. It makes you avoid your bills. It makes you feel anxious about checking your bank balance. It leads to tension in relationships, avoidance in families, and most tragically, the slow erosion of your power to choose. But when you start learning, really learning, everything begins to shift. It's not just your income that changes, it's your relationship with life. Understanding money is not just about increasing your wealth, it's about reclaiming your awareness. It's about directing your energy with clarity. When you understand the value of compound interest, you stop dismissing the importance of saving a single dollar today. When you learn how credit works, you no longer treat a credit card like free money. When you study financial psychology, you begin to see that your spending isn't just about behavior, it's about beliefs. Every swipe, every purchase, every dollar given or saved or wasted is a reflection of your inner world. That's why I always tell people, don't just look at your bank account. Look at what it reveals about your values, your mindset, your story. If you don't know where to begin, start with a small dose of curiosity. One topic a week. What is an ETF? How does compound interest work? How do I build an emergency fund? What is the 50-30-20 rule? These aren't trivia questions, they're tools of liberation. And the more you learn, the more confident you become. Not because you suddenly have all the answers, but because you finally decided to stop hiding from the questions. And here's the beautiful part. You don't have to do it alone. Today, we live in an age where information is abundant and often free. Books, podcasts, videos, blogs, communities, whatever your learning style, there is something for you. The only thing missing is your decision to begin. One of the most powerful shifts in my life came when I stopped asking, how much do I earn? And started asking, where is my money going? I noticed something strange. Even when I earned more, I still felt broke. I still feared opening my bank app. I still wondered, where did it all go? That's when I realized the problem wasn't the amount, it was the lack of a plan. Without a plan, money flows like water through open fingers, guided by impulse, dictated by emotion, lost in the noise of daily wants. So I created a monthly ritual. At the start of every month, I'd sit down with one piece of paper. 3 lines: income, fixed expenses, remaining amount. Then I'd assign a mission to that remainder. I told every dollar where to go. Not just spend or save, but why? What purpose? What goal? What impact? And the moment I began doing that, something remarkable happened. I stopped spending emotionally. I stopped buying things to soothe anxiety or to feel caught up. I started spending like someone with a strategy. It wasn't always perfect, but it was intentional. And that changed everything. If you're someone with irregular income, freelance, commission-based, entrepreneurial, then you might think planning is impossible. But the opposite is true. The less stable your income, the more crucial your structure becomes. Set a survival baseline, what you need monthly to live. Then, when abundance comes, don't let it sweep you away. Assign the extra to something meaningful. Don't let your money be led by moods. Let it be led by purpose. But even planning has its limits if it's only about spending. That's why I had to ask a more powerful question. How do I stop trading time for money forever? How do I escape the endless loop of earn, spend, wait, repeat? The answer, I discovered, was one of the greatest financial truths of all: build assets. An asset, by definition, is something that produces value or income without requiring your constant presence. Most people think assets only refer to real estate or stocks, but that's only part of the picture. A skill you can teach is an asset. A digital product you create once but sell repeatedly is an asset. A blog, a podcast, a YouTube channel, a course, a book. These are assets. They're not get-rich-quick schemes. They are tools of long-term sustainability. I started small. I bought books, studied how value is created, and began sharing what I learned. At first, it was simple coaching sessions or helpful videos. That became classes. Classes became income. Income became capital. And that capital, I reinvested it into more assets. The cycle was magical. Knowledge became value. Value became product. Product became income. Income became leverage. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't entirely dependent on one job, one employer, or one paycheck. I had options. And that's the essence of freedom, the ability to choose. Ask yourself, is there something you know that could help someone else? Have you solved a problem others are struggling with? Could you teach it, package it, share it? Could you begin this week? You don't need to be an expert. You just need to begin. Because as long as your income is tied 100% to your labor, you will always be capped by time, by energy, by the limitations of a single stream. But assets, they break that cap. They work while you sleep. They scale while you rest. They are not a dream reserved for billionaires. They are available to anyone with discipline, intention, and the courage to start small. I used to navigate money based on feelings. If I could afford a coffee, I assumed I was okay. If my card didn't get declined, I thought I was safe. But one day my mentor asked, "How much did you spend on food last month?" I gave a vague guess. He smiled and said, "That means you don't know. And if you don't know, you can't control. And if you can't control, you can't be free." That one sentence broke me. I realized I was lying to myself, not with words, but with avoidance. So I started tracking every expense. At first it was awkward. Then it became enlightening. I saw how many small, harmless purchases were quietly draining my power. Snacks, takeout, random apps, impulsive buys, none of them fatal alone, but devastating in aggregate. And the transformation wasn't just financial, it was personal. I became mindful, not rigid, not stingy, but aware. I asked, was this worth it? I started spending with clarity. That clarity spread to my time, my focus, even my relationships. All from the simple act of tracking. And if you're resisting the idea because it seems tedious, ask yourself this: is living in the dark better? Is financial anxiety, avoidance, or surprise really easier than 10 minutes a day of awareness? Because tracking isn't about numbers. It's about truth. And every truth you face frees you. The final layer of this entire journey is the one most people ignore: the concept of legacy. One day we all leave this world, and when that day comes, no one will talk about how much money we made. They'll talk about how we lived, what values we embodied, what lessons we passed on, what mindset we left behind. I used to think financial success was a personal goal: earn enough to retire, to relax. But then I saw the next generation, friends, kids, my own relatives, growing up in the same confusion I once lived in. That's when I understood legacy isn't about inheritance. It's about imprint. You're not just managing money for yourself. You're modeling a relationship with money for those who watch you every day. Children don't learn money from lectures. They learn from watching you. If you're always stressed, always impulsive, always blaming circumstances, they'll learn that money is fear. But if you plan, give, save, and talk openly about your mistakes and your values, they inherit something far greater than wealth. They inherit wisdom. You don't need millions to leave a legacy. You need intention. You need clarity. You need to live what you want others to remember. So I'll leave you with this. Don't let knowledge sit in your head. Turn it into action. Grab a piece of paper right now. Write your income. Subtract your expenses. Assign a mission to every remaining dollar. Automate your savings. Divide 30% as we've discussed. Learn one thing this week about money. Track your expenses daily. Build one small asset. Share what you learn. Teach your children. Live your plan. Because in the end, wealth isn't what you have. It's what you build, share, protect, and pass on. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent, step by step, brick by brick, decision by decision. You will not only transform your finances, you will change your life. And one day you'll look back and realize it all began with one quiet decision: to take control.